They know the date of their death. Inside America's death row, Daniel Cross sits on the edge of his bunk in cell block H, staring at the calendar he's marked every day for 6 years. 2 days remain. 48 hours. He knows exactly when he'll die. Wednesday, 12:01 a.m. The guard delivered his final meal request form this morning. In 2 days, the state of Texas will strap him to a gurney and inject a cocktail of drugs that will stop his heart. Unlike most people who wonder about their last day, Daniel knows is down to the minute. But what he doesn't know yet is that these final 48 hours will unravel everything he thought he understood about justice, guilt, and the man who shares a cell next to High S. What would you do if you knew exactly when you'd die? Daniel Cross is about to find out. But this isn't just another death row story. This is the true story of Daniel Cross's final 48 hours on death row, where every tick of the clock brings him closer to the execution chamber. But in these last 2 days, a secret will emerge from the cell next door that could change everything. This is what happens when you know the exact date of your death. If you're already hooked by this story, hit that subscribe button right now. We dive deep into prison cases most channels won't touch, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's go back to where Daniel's final countdown truly began. Daniel Cross, prisoner number 0847293, wakes to the same sound as heard for 2,191 mornings, the electric buzz of cell doors unlocking for breakfast count. He's 43 years old, but death row has aged him. Gray streaks his hair. Deep lines mark his face. Convicted in 2019 of murdering a convenience store clerk during a robbery, Daniel has maintained his innocence through 3 appeal denials. His court-appointed lawyer stopped returning calls 2 years ago. His ex-wife stopped writing 3 years before that. His daughter, Sarah, now 16, hasn't visited since she was 11. In 42 hours, the state will execute him for a crime he swears he didn't commit. But nobody's listening anymore. The legal system has spoken. The clock is ticking. Breakfast arrives through the slot. Powdered eggs, toast, and lukewarm coffee. Daniel eats mechanically, his mind elsewhere. Death row operates on a different rhythm than general population. 23 hours a day in an 8x10 cell. 1 hour for recreation in a cage barely larger. No contact visits. No phone calls except to lawyers. The other 9 men on his block have become his only community. To his left, cell 14 houses Carlos Mendez, a former gang leader who found religion and spends his days singing hymns. To his right, cell 16 remains occupied by the man everyone calls the Professor, Dr. Alan Brenner, a former anesthesiologist convicted of killing 4 patients. They've been neighbors for 6 years, separated by concrete and steel, yet Daniel has never actually seen the professor's face, only heard his voice through the walls. As Daniel slides his breakfast tray back through the slot, he notices something unusual. A small piece of paper, folded tightly, wedged between the tray and the slot. He glances at the guard walking away, then quickly palms the note. In 6 years, he's never received contraband. His hand shakes slightly as he unfolds it. The handwriting is precise, almost surgical. Daniel, I know you're innocent. I know who really killed that clock. But if I tell you, we both die sooner than Wednesday. Meet me in the rec yard at 8 a.m. We need to talk. The professor. Daniel reads it 3 times. His heart pounds. How could the professor possibly know anything about his case? Why wait until now? What does he mean we both die sooner? Daniel paces his cell, the note burning in his pocket. He's memorized every word. In 36 hours, he'll be dead. What difference does it make if the professor knows something? The courts won't grant a stay. The governor won't intervene. Texas has executed 578 people since 1982. 1 more won't make headlines. But something nags at Daniel. The professor has been on death row since 2016, 3 years before Daniel arrived. Why would a doctor convicted of murder care about a convenience store robbery? Daniel checks the clock. 7:47 a.m. 13 minutes until rec time. The recreation yard is a concrete box open to the sky, surrounded by 20-foot walls topped with razor wire. Guard towers watch from every angle. Daniel is escorted to his assigned cage, a chain-link pen 10 feet square. The professor occupies the cage adjacent. For the first time in 6 years, Daniel sees his neighbor's face. Dr. Alan Brenner is in his 60s, thin and pale, with sharp blue eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. His gray hair is neatly combed despite the circumstances. He doesn't look like a killer, but Daniel knows that doesn't mean anything. He doesn't look like one either. "You got my note," the professor says quietly, gripping the chain link between them. "We don't have much time." They watch, but they can't hear us out here over the fan noise. Daniel steps closer. "How do you know anything about my case?" The professor glances at the guard tower, then continues. "In 2019, 3 weeks before your arrest, I was still working at County General Hospital. A man came into the ER with a gunshot wound, superficial, through and through in the shoulder. He was nervous, agitated. I treated him. While he was under local anesthetic, he kept muttering about the store and the clock, and it wasn't supposed to go down like that. I didn't think much of it until I saw your case on the news. The timeline matched. The location matched. But here's what you need to understand about death row. Daniel, there are rules. The guards control everything. The warden controls more. And some people on the outside control even more than that. That man who came to my ER, he had connections. The kind that reach inside these walls. Time's up, Cruss." The guard's voice cuts through the yard. Daniel's pulse spikes. "Wait, who was he? What's his name?" Daniel presses against the fence. The professor's expression darkens. "His name is Detective Vincent Pierce. He's the lead investigator on your case." The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. The detective who arrested him, who testified against him, who swore under oath that Daniel acted alone. That detective was the real shooter? That's impossible. 30 seconds. Cross. Let's go. The guard moves closer. The professor whispers urgently. "Tonight, during med call at 9 p.m., I'll pass you something. Don't open it until you're alone. And Daniel, be very, very careful who you trust. Pierce has people everywhere in this prison. Inmates and guards both." Back in his cell, Daniel's mind races. Detective Pierce, the man with the perfect record, the department's golden boy, is a murderer. It sounds insane, but the professor has no reason to lie. He's already convicted, already facing execution. What would he gain? Unless this is some twisted game. Unless Pierce really does have people inside, and this is a test. Daniel learned early in prison that paranoia isn't crazy, it's survival. But something in the professor's eyes felt genuine. Desperate, even. Daniel makes a decision. He'll play along. He'll get whatever the professor passes him tonight. He has 33 hours until execution. What's the worst that could happen? They can't kill him twice. Lunch arrives, but Daniel can't eat. His stomach churns. Through the walls, he hears Carlos Mendez singing Amazing Grace in Spanish. Down the corridor, another inmate screams obscenities at the guards. Normal death row symphony. But something feels different today. Wrong. Daniel notices guard Morrison, usually friendly, one of the few decent ones, won't make eye contact during meal delivery. When he slides the tray through, Morrison's hand trembles slightly. "You okay, Morrison?" Daniel asks. The guard looks at him for just a second. There's something in his eyes. Faye? Warning? Just do what you were told today. Cross. Don't ask questions. Don't make waves. Then he's gone. Daniel stays at his lunch tray. On top of the mashed potatoes, someone has drawn a small X with gravy. A mark? A warning? Or just a coincidence? At 4:30 p.m., an announcement crackles over the intercom. Cell Block H, lockdown inspection. All inmates remain in cells. No movement until further notice. This never happens on Mondays. Inspections are Thursdays. Daniel hears boots in the corridor, multiple guards, moving fast. They are searching cells. Not random tusses, but systematic, thorough. They start at cell 8, work their way down. Cell 10, cell 12, cell 14, Carlos's cell. Daniel hears furniture scraping, Carlos protesting in Spanish. Then they reach cell 16, the professor's cell. There's a crash. Shouting. The professor's calm voice. "That's my legal correspondence. You can't? Shut it, Brenner." That's Captain Wallace, head of the block. More crashing. 5 minutes of destruction. Then silence. The boots moved past Daniel's cell without stopping. They weren't looking for contraband. They were looking for something specific. In the professor's cell. Before we continue, if you want to see how Daniel gets out of this impossible situation, subscribe now. We're posting death row stories every week that go deeper than anywhere else. Hit that button. This story is about to get even more intense. Now, back to Daniel's nightmare. Dinner arrives. Daniel forces himself to eat. He needs energy, needs to stay sharp. Through the wall, he hears the professor's voice, hoarse. Daniel, can you hear me? Daniel moves to the wall. Yeah, I hear you. They took everything. My legal files, my letters, my notes. Everything. The professor sounds exhausted. Listen carefully. At med call, I can't pass you what I planned. But there's a backup. Tomorrow morning, during breakfast, a trustee named Jenkins will deliver your tray. Ex-military. Tattoo of a cross on his left wrist. His not one of Pierce's. Ask him for extra milk. He'll know what to do. How do I know I can trust him? Daniel whispers. You don't. But in 28 hours, you'll be dead anyway. What do you have to lose? The professor has a point. Med call arrives. Nurse Williams pushes her cart down the block, distributing pills through the slots. Blood pressure medication for Carlos. Antidepressants for the kid in cell 11. When she reaches Daniel, she pauses. You're not on any medications. Cross. I know. Just wanted to ask, don't. Her voice drops to barely a whisper. Don't say anything. Don't trust anyone tonight. Just survive until morning. She moves to the professor's cell. Daniel watches through his mirror angle to see the corridor. She passes the professor his pills, but no conversation, no exchange. The professor looks defeated. After she leaves, silence falls over the block. Daniel lies on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. 27 hours until his execution. And all he has is a name, Detective Vincent Pierce, and a trustee he's supposed to meet tomorrow named Jenkins. Daniel jolts awake to breakfast call. He didn't sleep, just stayed at the ceiling for 8 hours. The trustee pushing the breakfast cart is new to Daniel. White guy, late 40s, military buzz cut, and yes, a cross tattooed on his left wrist. Jenkins. Daniel's heart pounds as Jenkins approaches his cell. Breakfast, cross. Jenkins slides the tray through. Daniel leans close to the slot. Can I get extra milk? Jenkins doesn't react for 3 seconds. Then, calmly, sure thing. He reaches into his cart, pulls out a small milk carton, sets it on the tray. But underneath the carton, pressed between it and the tray, is a small USB drive wrapped in plastic. Daniel palms it smoothly, pockets it. Thanks. Jenkins nods once, moves on. No extra words. Professional. Daniel returns to his bunk, the USB drive burning in his pocket. Now what? Daniel stares at the USB drive. It's tiny, barely an inch long. But there's a massive problem. He has no computer, no phone, no device to read it. Death row inmates don't get electronics. He has literally no way to access whatever's on this drive. 17 hours until his execution, and is holding potential evidence he can't even view. Frustration boils over. He wants to scream, throw something, punch the concrete wall. Instead, he forces himself to think. The professor wouldn't send him something useless. There has to be a way. Through the wall. Daniel. The professor's voice. You have it. Yeah, but I can't read it. Silence. Then, the chaplain. Father Mackenzie visits the block at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays for final confessions. He brings a laptop to show families video messages. Ask for a final confession. You'll figure it out. 2 hours. Daniel has 2 hours to plan. Father Mackenzie arrives precisely at 10 a.m., just as the professor predicted. His 60-something, kind eyes, genuinely caring, rare on death row. Daniel calls out, Father, can I have a final confession? Father Mackenzie approaches Daniel's cell. Of course, my son. Tomorrow is your day. Midnight tonight. 18 hours. Daniel tries to sound broken, which isn't hard. Father Mackenzie enters the cell with a guard present. Protocol. He sits on the bunk, opens his laptop bag. I often show inmates final video messages from family. Would you like me to check if anyone has sent? Yes, please check. Daniel's voice cracks. This is his chance. Father Mackenzie opens his laptop, logs into his email. The guard stands at the door, bored, not paying close attention. I don't see any messages yet. But, Father, could you check my daughter Sarah's social media? Just to see how she's doing? I haven't heard from her in years. Father Mackenzie hesitates. This isn't standard procedure. But Daniel's desperation is real. Please, Father, I just want to see her face one last time before. The priest's expression softens. What's her name? Sarah Cross. She'd be 16 now. Father Mackenzie types, navigating to Facebook. The guard yawns, checks his watch. This is Daniel's moment. Father, I think I have some photos on a USB drive. Could we look at those instead? My lawyer gave it to me years ago. He produces the drive. Father Mackenzie takes it, inserts it into his laptop. A folder opens, but it's not photos. It's videos. Files labeled PSE Audio MP3, Ballistics Report Original.pdf, Witness Statement Suppressed.doc. Daniel and Father Mackenzie stare at the screen. The guard starts to approach. What's going on? What's that? It's nothing, Father Mackenzie starts, but Daniel cuts him off. Play the audio file, please. The guard is 3 feet away. Father Mackenzie's hand hovers over the keyboard. In that split second, everything balances on a knife's edge. Then Father Mackenzie double-clicks. Detective Pierce's voice fills the cell. Gunshot wound. Through and through. It was an accident. The clerk grabbed my piece. I didn't mean to shoot. I just needed the cash. My gambling debts. They're gonna kill me. The professor's voice. You need to tell someone. I can't. I'm a cop. I'll report it as an armed robbery. Pin it on someone else. No one will know. The guard's face goes white. Turn that off. Now. He lunges for the laptop. Father Mackenzie snaps it shut, clutches it to his chest. This is evidence. This man is innocent. I said turn it off. Within minutes, cell block H erupts in chaos. Guards flood the corridor. Captain Wallace arrives, face purple with rage. Cross, Father Mackenzie. Neither of you move. But Father Mackenzie is already on his phone, dialing frantically. This is Father Mackenzie at Huntsville Prison. I need to speak with the governor's legal office immediately. I have evidence proving an inmate scheduled for execution tonight is innocent. Yes, I'll hold. Wallace reaches for the phone. Father Mackenzie steps back. If you interfere with this call, Captain, you'll be party to executing an innocent man. How does that sit with your conscience? Wallace freezes. Down the corridor, the professor's voice rises. I'm the one who recorded that. Dr. Alan Brenner, cell 16. It's all true. Pierce is a real killer. Inmates start shouting, banging on doors. The entire block knows something major is happening. For 4 hours, Daniel sits in his cell while attorneys, prison officials, and state investigators swarm the prison. The USB drive contains everything. The professor's secret recording from the ER in 2019. The original ballistics report showing the bullets came from a service weapon, not the .38 Daniel allegedly used. Witness statements that were suppressed by Pierce. Bank records showing Pierce's $47,000 gambling debt, the exact amount stolen from the convenience store. At 2 p.m., Daniel's public defender, who hasn't visited in 2 years, appears at his cell, tears streaming down her face. Daniel, the governor granted a stay. Indefinite postponement. The Attorney General is opening a full investigation into Pierce and the prosecutor who tried your case. You're not being executed tonight. Daniel slides down the wall, unable to process the words. Not being executed. Tonight or any night. News spreads through cell block H. Carlos Mendez sings Amazing Grace at full volume. Other inmates bang appreciation on their bars. Death row's version of applause. Through the wall, the professor's voice. Daniel, you're welcome. Why? Daniel asks. Why did you help me? Why risk getting your cell tossed? Long pause. Then, because I actually am guilty. I killed those patients. Deliberately. I have to live with that every day until they execute me in November. But I couldn't live with watching them kill an innocent man when I had proof they were wrong. Call it penance. Call it whatever you want. Daniel presses his palm against the wall. He'll never meet the professor face to face again, never shake his hand. But this man saved his life. Thank you, Daniel whispers. Thank you for giving me a future. The next morning, the morning Daniel was supposed to die, he watches the news through Father Mackenzie's tablet. Detective Vincent Pierce was arrested at 6 a.m. at his suburban home. He's charged with murder, armed robbery, evidence tampering, and conspiracy. The district attorney who prosecuted Daniel is under investigation. 3 other cases Pierce investigated are being reviewed. The convenience store clerk's family, who believed justice had been served, now knows the truth. Daniel's name is being cleared, but the wheels of bureaucracy turn slowly. He's transferred from death row to general population while the state processes his exoneration. It could take months, maybe a year, but he's alive. In 1 week, Sarah, his daughter he hasn't seen in 5 years, is coming to visit. He has time now, time he thought was gone. 6 months after his scheduled execution, Daniel Cross walks out of Huntsville prison a free man. All charges dropped. The state of Texas issues a formal apology and a compensation package, though no amount of money returns 6 years. Detective Pierce is convicted and sentenced to life without parole. Ironically, his house in the same prison Daniel just left, 3 blocks away from death row. Daniel rebuilds slowly. His ex-wife, while not reconciling, allows regular visits with Sarah. He gets a job at a legal aid nonprofit, helping other potentially wrongful convictions. He speaks publicly about death row, about the men he left behind. Every November, he thinks about the professor. Dr. Alan Brenner was executed on November 14th, 6 months after saving Daniel's life. No appeals, no stays. He was guilty, and he accepted his punishment. But he died having done one truly good thing. Today, Daniel speaks at law schools and advocacy groups. He talks about the 48 hours he spent knowing he would die, about the impossible choice the professor made, risking his own safety to save a stranger. The death penalty assumes the system is perfect, Daniel tells audiences. But the system is run by humans, and humans make mistakes. Or worse, humans lie. Detective Pierce wasn't a mistake. He was a deliberate corruption. How many others are there? How many men are sitting on death row right now, counting down their final hours, innocent of the crimes they are accused of? We'll never know, unless we look. Daniel carries 2 things with him always, a photo of Sarah and a small cross, the same design the professor wore on a chain. Father Mackenzie gave it to Daniel after the execution. He wanted you to have it, the priest said. 2 years after his exoneration, Daniel returns to Huntsville prison as a volunteer. He visits cell block H, where he spent 6 years waiting to die. He talks to the men still there, still counting down. Some are guilty. Some maintain innocence. All are human. Daniel stands where he once stood, looking at cell 15, his old home. Someone else lives there now. A 24-year-old kid who swears he didn't kill anyone. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's not. Daniel doesn't know. But he knows this. In the 48 hours he spent knowing his death date, he learned more about life than most people learn in 80 years. He learned that truth can hide in the most unexpected places. That courage comes from the most unlikely people. That the clock is always ticking for everyone, but some of us hear it louder than others. Daniel Cross's story ended differently than 578 others in Texas. He got his miracle. Most don't. If this story opened your eyes to the reality of death row and wrongful convictions, hit that subscribe button now. We're covering one deep dive prison case every single week. Stories that need to be told, voices that need to be heard. Next week, we're investigating the case of a woman who's been on death row for 20 years for a crime that new DNA evidence suggests she couldn't have committed. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe now. And remember, the truth is always worth fighting for, even when the clock is counting down.